You are now listening to The Box Out with Kahlil Thomas and Jason Courtney on the One Podcast Network. Let's get it.
From NJ to BK in the world, this is The Box Out here on the One Podcast Network. My name is Kahlil Thomas. Joining me in just a few minutes will be Jason Courtney from Brooklyn, New York. A lot to get to, a lot to discuss. Our opening tip tonight is about when stars retire, right? When basketball players, football players, actors, when anyone of any great talent calls it a career, says, I'm done. I'm tired. Want to take a break. A lot goes into the heads of their fans and of their admirers, and the conversation begins. Where does this person land in the pantheon of the sport, or of the pantheon of acting, or whatever case may be, right? So when someone retires, they get their flowers, but then the automatic next part is, okay, where would they rank? where do they go in the order of everything? And I think the same has to be said for who retired this week. Diana Taurasi, a long time stalwart, the gatekeeper, I would say, of women's basketball for the last 20 plus years. She announced her retirement this week. And going back to her days at UConn, you always knew that she was a big name. She was legit. Diana Taurasi was a legit player. I don't care if we're talking about men, women. She was a ball player. So to see someone, I guess from when she was balling out, I was in my 20s. So WNBA was still in its infant stage. Teams are still kind of retracting and coming in and changing location. So, there's a few years in WNBA where you didn't have a lot of consistency because the owners of those teams, like the Houston Comets, the Cleveland Rockers, the Miami Soul, Sacramento Monarchs, they just did not give a shit about their WNBA franchise, and those franchises folded. Phoenix Mercury is one of those kind of original teams, like the New York Liberty, that has stayed around, and the LA Sparks that have stayed around, and that has kind of lasted the test of time, and they are still in place today in the WNBA. And Diana Taurasi kind of led that charge, going off of that era of owners who didn't really care about their franchises, owners who really didn't care about how their franchises were, and the potential that women's basketball had. Because let's go back to when she started playing, and that was early 2000s. The league was a few years old, and and you still kind of feel this way today, how the league still doesn't feel completely untethered from the NBA. And obviously the NBA paid a lot of bills. It was the NBA, David Stern wanted to do this, and the NBA kind of, for lack of a better term, propped up the WNBA for years and years and years. So that was a thing, and that we can't, whitewash that part. But I think Taurasi started that climb that really should have started with the Houston Comets winning those titles, and you had that rivalry with the Comets and Liberty for years, and that kind of fell off, especially when the Comets kind of went under. She started that climb to where we are today, where you're getting 2 million people watching games on TV. You're getting sellout crowds, and no matter if Caitlin Clark played or not, those crowds are selling out in arenas around the league. Caitlin Clark was standing. So you can say she was part of that new generation coming in, like a Brittany Griner, Cappie Pondexter, a lot of players that kind of helped that charge and kind of rebuild the WNBA from where they were. Because think about it, early 2000s, the WNBA was like, okay, it's here. It's like a 20-game season. No one really cared about it. people watch, people really didn't care. And I think Taurasi, especially coming from UConn, where UConn women basketball is you could put up there with Kentucky men's basketball and Duke men's basketball and UCLA and North Carolina basketball. That definitely helped because has UConn kind of continued to build that dynasty. Here comes Diana Taurasi, who brought that fearlessness that she played with at UConn to the WNBA and the Phoenix Mercury for 21 seasons where she played, did not leave, stayed with Phoenix her whole career. And, you have to look at it, her now, her numbers, and obviously we'll go through her numbers in a second when Jason gets on. But where does she stack up in the pantheon of, let's start with women's basketball, and then we'll kind of go into men's basketball. But I think the conversation starts now of where she fits in the pantheon of basketball players. As I bring Jason Cordner from Brooklyn, New York. Jay, what's going on, bro?
Not much, man. How you feeling?
I'm good. So Diana Taurasi retired. Bruce is very happy on the show last night.
Why?
The ultimate hater, Bruce. He was very ecstatic about that whole thing. What were your thoughts when she retired? First off, I started the show saying that she was kind of that starting point for the league to kind of get back from, I guess, the debacle of Houston being retracted and Cleveland and Miami and teams moving to different cities and people not really caring about WNBA. I think she started the trend of people really starting to care about the league again.
I think when you look at women's basketball, you think about Cheryl Miller, and it seems like it's always been passing to the torch stages, whereas Diana came right before. No, she came right after. Sorry, she came right after the Houston Comets dominance.
Yeah,
and she was the next big thing, and she excelled at UConn. She excelled in Phoenix. I would definitely say she is definitely on the Mount Rushmore of female sports. Like if you was going to put, she's up there with Serena Williams. She's up there. I'm trying to think who else you would want to put up there in that Mount Rushmore. But when it comes to basketball, I think she's the GOAT. When it comes to female sports in general, I think she's on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I think in basketball, before we go into women's sports in general, basketball, it's her, it's Cheryl Miller.
Yep.
It's
she's on that level. She's on that level.
Cheryl Swoops.
Cheryl Swoops, yep.
I think Lisa Leslie's a level below all of them. I think she's in that top 10. Nancy Lieberman, she's not married no more. Lieberman, Ann Myers, we could name off names from back in the day, but she's definitely on that list.
We could even start with that one program in UConn. She's the GOAT of UConn. Like even as much talent they have had throughout the years, she's definitely still the one that opened the door for all of that.
Yeah, I think in a weird way, and I hate saying this because I really don't like Gino Auriemma. UConn kind of helped save the WNBA and put them on a different level because I feel like obviously you had Rebecca Lobo and Jennifer Rosati early WNBA, and then you had Taurasi, and then you had Sue Bird, and then you had Maya Moore, and then names just kept popping out, and we still see it now. Paige Becker's going to come out this year. I feel like it is weird. UConn oddly kind of helped reinvigorate the WNBA.
I would say UConn was definitely the G League of the WNBA, without a doubt.
I can see that. I can totally see that. Diana was the best. She was a winner at every level. That's true. She has 3 titles. Weird stat: 107 technical fouls in her career.
She bought that heat, man. She was about that. She was definitely about that life.
The other part of being the GOAT, right? And I think some people don't want to talk about this part. I feel like to be a GOAT, you have had to get into some trouble off the court. To me, I feel like there had to be some type of drama off the court to put you in that GOAT status.
So that means LeBron is never going to be the GOAT in your eyes.
Never going to be the GOAT. Nope. Well, I mean, there's this lawsuit going on with the car accident, but that's alleged. I don't want to talk about that here and get sued. I forgot she got a DUI years ago. So I think she's automatically GOAT status for that DUI.
Now, was
And then
it
it makes it no
DUI?
status.
Was it on the East Coast or was it on the West Coast?
It was on, I think it was on the West Coast. I gotta find it. I bumped into it yesterday. I'm like, oh wait, after leading Phoenix to a second title, Taurasi was arrested for driving under the influence in July 2009. Didn't say where. Shortly afterward, while she was playing overseas in Turkey, she received a provisional ban in 2010 for the alleged use of a stimulant. But the lab conducting the test was discredited, and she was cleared of allegations. So, you go if you get in trouble. So, she's in there. I put it up there. In terms of women and men, I think the comparisons have to be made. We have to talk about it. There was an interesting stat on SportsCenter where players who averaged at least 15 points a game and how many seasons consecutively or something like that. I think it was like LeBron was like 18 or 19, and then she was like 15.
Oh, wow.
Can we have this conversation about putting her in there with the men? Like, obviously, different game, different conversation. We know this. But can we have that talk about Diana Taurasi compared to NBA players?
I think it's kind of difficult, but if there's only maybe a handful of female basketball players that you could have that conversation with, I wouldn't do it in this genre, but I would do it in the genre of when it comes to UConn basketball supremacy. Who are we going to say was the top 5 in athletes, men and women? She's definitely on that top 5, but who is she? Top 3, top 2? Is she number 1? That's the question I would say would be a more suitable question when it comes to UConn basketball in general, men's and women.
UConn men, you have Rip Hamilton, Ray Allen. Is that it? I can't think of.
No, they had a couple more. They had a couple other guys.
Kahlil Elamine. That's all I can think of right now. Little short, overweight point guard. There's a lot more women in my head for playing for basketball for UConn than men. Jake Voskuhl.
And this is saying something considering UConn just won the national championship last year.
Kevin Ollie.
Yeah, he's up there.
Should he be on the top list though? I feel like
top 10. Top 10.
Listen, I think Sue Bird is above him. I think Taurasi's obviously. I think Rebecca Lobo, Jennifer Rosati, Maya Moore, Paige Beckers, Elise Flood for this year. She's like scoring 25 points a game. I think on the Mount Rushmore of UConn basketball, men and women, I think Taurasi's definitely on there. I think it's Taurasi.
We got to put Ray up there. We got to put Ray up there.
Ray Allen, and I'm stuck between Rip Hamilton and Maya Moore.
I might put Maya ahead of Rip.
Right. So I'm thinking that's the UConn.
Yeah, I might put Maya ahead of. I definitely might put Maya ahead of Rip.
Because Rip had a good career in college, but like there was no real defining moment. I think he had that one buzzer beater in the tournament, but that's about it. Ray Allen's whole UConn career was just full of moments, full of things, full of crazy things that happened. So besides him, there's no one of any real, like, oh my God, that guy. Like, I couldn't think of anybody off the top of my head besides those two guys and the randos that I mentioned besides them.
And that goes to show you how great Taurasi was if you're thinking about her before you're thinking about those guys.
Listen, and I hate Gino Auriemma, but I give him credit. He knows how to run a program. So good on him, even though he's a putz who's complaining about.
And I love how she retired before the season starts, before we even have a WNBA draft, before the tournament start. She was like, I'm calling it a career right now.
Yeah, like spotlight's on me for the day. Like, I don't need no distractions. So congratulations to Taurasi. You had a good career. Enjoy TV because that's where she's going. She's going straight to TV. ESPN will scoop her up, and she's gonna be on TV all summer on WNBA. So good on her. So let's get to it. The Knicks. Listen.
The sky is falling, Knicks. The sky is falling.
They did beat Philly. Mm-hmm. However, there were 2 games before that game against Philly, against Cleveland and Boston, both road games. I don't know why I'm prefacing that saying road games.
Because you have to. You have to.
And they got the brakes beat off of them in both games. The Cleveland game made me feel confident for about the first 18 minutes. And after that...
Remember, that was coming off a back-to-back where they played overtime against the lousy Bulls, but regardless, we're not going to,
And then
Ironically, both teams made the trip from New York to Cleveland. Never thought you'd see things like that happen in the league, but hey.
No. And then Sunday, we had the beat down in Boston.
They played good in the third quarter. Don't forget that part.
I love how you're just trying to like, there's some good to take from this. It's not all bad.
It's not all bad. It's a good film.
They did beat Philly. The hobbled corpse that is the Philadelphia 76ers. Should we be worried? Is it time to start the what the hell's going on conversation?
I don't think it's time to be worried. I think they're pretty much stuck where they're at. I don't think anyone's going to catch them for the 3rd seed. I don't think they're going to catch Boston, even though they're 3.5 behind Boston. And I think 3 games behind them in loss column. Thank you, Detroit, last night. I think like I said last show, I think the rest of these 20-something games left, shore up the defense, figure out a cohesive offensive flow for guys like Bridges and OB, things like that. That's what they need to do. I think right now, they got shellacked by Cleveland and Boston, but they've been shellacking a lot of people too. They're 10-3 in the division. They only lost 3 games to one team. I think they're 13-7 in the last 20 games. They're fine. I think the media is overreacting to 2 bad losses on the road, and they still have a 17-10 on the road record. We can't forget that part either. But I think, like I said, the last 20-something games, shore up the defense. Mitch should be back anytime now. Hey, I think they could go into Memphis and beat Memphis tomorrow. If that happens, I really think everyone needs to pump the brakes on the downfall of the Knicks.
So there was a good news and bad news today with the Knicks. You had Ariel, and I hate saying his name, so I just mispronounce it, Herporty. He has a torn meniscus. He's out for about 4 to 6 weeks. But then on the good side, Mitchell Robinson, they're saying either going to debut tomorrow in Memphis or on Sunday in Miami. So you're getting Mitch back, which can be a good thing, but you lose a little bit more size. And Ariel's playing really well in his start last night against Philly. So it's a little bit of good, a little bit of bad. Mitch is not going to get a lot of minutes to start. They're going to kind of like baby him up a little bit.
Yep.
But I don't know. Sammy, what's going on? They will not beat the Celtics in a 7-game series. Here's my only retort to that. They bought in Mikal Bridges and OG for a series like that. Now, obviously it didn't work on Sunday against Tatum and Brown. But I think in a best of 7, I think you're looking at the Knicks probably going down, but not being like 4 games to 2. I think a Knicks Celtics series is going to go 7. I think Brunson's going to make a difference. I think Cat's going to make a difference. I honestly think Mitchell Robinson, even coming back now and getting his minutes and getting his reps in, is going to benefit them down the line because he don't have those miles on him like Tibbs puts on his players by April. So I think everybody needs to pump the brakes and stop too. I think it's like sky's not falling. We're not done yet. I think they're still trying to figure this shit out. And I think when Mitch comes back, it becomes a little easier.
Now Cat goes back to his primary position. They'll be fine. The key I think the Knicks' key is to stay healthy, get healthy, and don't limp into the playoffs like they did last year. They'll be fine. And then I'm starting to hear rumbles that people were saying, "Oh, I don't know, the Pistons or Orlando might be a bad matchup for the Knicks. They might be one and done." I really hate when talking figures on certain networks have a lot of stuff to crap on the Knicks about.
Who was that?
Was it I forgot her name on ESPN. And I also heard I think I heard Bill Simmons mention it too, that they was like the trade might be a little frisky for the Knicks. I don't see that.
I mean, we'll talk about Detroit later because I watched them play last night. And I'm curious about what you think about them. But you have this road trip this weekend. How important is the Memphis game, and especially how important is that Miami game on Sunday?
I think Miami's more important. Memphis is probably just looking for a split, and ironically got identical records. So I think Memphis might be looking for a little get back in that game. But I think Miami, they have to beat Miami. They have to really beat Miami. Not like what they did against Philly last night. I think they have to really insert their will on Miami.
And in the grand scheme of things, the last 10 games, the Knicks are 6-4. I think we got to kind of take it in 10-game intervals. I think that's how I look at the Knicks now.
But that 6-4 is a little glaring because it is Boston twice, Cleveland once, and not so good showing against Detroit. So it's
Chicago. Chicago had no business taking us overtime last week.
Right.
Like, none. So that scared me and made me feel more uneasy.
But
than losing to Cleveland.
They had to get that game. They had to get that game against Chicago because then it would have been a 3-game losing streak. Then I might have bought in a little bit to the sky's falling. A little bit, just a little bit.
Does beating Philly, did that make you feel any better? Because I feel like it was one of those things I'm like, I kind of feel good, but I don't because we were losing to them.
Anytime you can beat Philly in any sport, it's always a good day.
I concur. And shame on the Eagles for going to the White House. Because I was like, you know what? I hate them, but I respect them for not going. And then they come out, yeah, we're going to go. I'm like, see, no, you had me. You had me for about 2 hours on Twitter, and now you're done. You're done to me again. just say no. Talking about the Pistons. Excuse me. Talking about the Pistons. Are they for real? Have we turned a corner with the Detroit Pistons? Because I remember last year, and you and I made fun of them quite often last year. Is this fool's gold, or are the Pistons winning 8 games in a row like, oh shit, they figured it out?
I'm gonna say they definitely figured it out. I'm gonna give props to one of my coworkers because she's a diehard Cavs fan. I mean, diehard. She even went to the. I remember that game they played in London against the Nets last year. She went to that game. That's how diehard Cavs fan she is. And she kind of said it, and I didn't think about it until we had this meeting today, that Detroit's doing good because they had the Cavs coach from last year. And Monty stunk up the joint last year because last year we thought they were talented enough to get into the play-in. So I think it is a combination of better coaching. These guys are playing up to their skills, and I think they're definitely above a playing team. They're definitely going to be right there with the Pacers for 5 and 6. So they are frisky, and they're definitely playing ahead. They're an upstart team. I think they're a year away before we start really taking them seriously in the East.
And you know what scares you about them too? I'm looking at their roster right now. They have a lot of size, but that size is really like versatile. Like Jalen Durant is not your prototypical center. Right. Cunningham is Cunningham is a 6'6" point guard. You still have Tim Hardaway is that tweener where he can still hit a shot when he hit a shot. The Thompson brother, he's a beast. You still have the remaining remnants of Tobias Harris still kind of lurking around. Jaden Ivey's going to be a superstar. Isaiah Stewart, who I always forget they have, apparently can shoot a 3 now. Isaiah Stewart can hit a 3. It's weird because when he got Bickerstaff, I was like, so you get rid of Monty, you bring in JB.
Right.
Who really hasn't really done a whole bunch. Like, you think Monty Williams, like, you're getting, cream of the crop. But he didn't really want the job. He just took it because they offered him a buttload of money and said, I got to take that money. You bring in Bickerstaff, and it seems like they're responding to him almost the way that Houston has been responding to Ime Udoka for the last 2 years. Yes,
man. Coaching matters. Coach a strong voice that challenging the players matters, especially young guys. They want to be coached up. So kudos for Detroit for having a bounce back season. Because remember last year how bad they looked, and we all thought, well, is it Monty or is it the players? I guess now we know it definitely wasn't the players.
Yeah, and it doesn't help when your coach doesn't want to be there.
Exactly.
Because Monty did not want to be coaching that team. You could tell in his face, he's like, why am I here? I'm getting paid, but I really don't want to be here.
The pizza's not that good out here. I mean, where am I doing? What am I doing out here?
What am I doing in Detroit right now? This arena sucks. It's built for hockey, not for us. They took us out the Palace for some reason. The Palace is fine. So Detroit, that's going to be interesting to kind of see how that all works out and see if Detroit keeps going. 8 in a row is impressive.
Very impressive.
If they hit 10, it becomes even more impressive. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. College basketball. Listen, I told you I was going to watch a lot of college basketball last weekend. I did. Okay. I watched too much. I'm burnt out. I'm of the mind where I think this tournament, on both the men and the women's side,
wide open.
Wait, hold on. Bruce chimed in. Greatest dirty player. You got to watch his show last night. He was very complimentary. He was very complimentary of Diana Taurasi. But like Bruce has that undercurrent of just like, I still don't like you. I'm gonna shout you out. But yeah, I still don't like you though.
I don't know about dirty. Definitely very talkative, very combative, very Draymond Green-ish, maybe. But I don't know about dirty.
I mean, the amount of tentacles she has is pretty impressive for WNBA standards.
Hey.
That 107 in a career is pretty impressive in the league. But yeah, so I was saying, I think this tournament, men and women's side, I don't know who's going to win because you get the women's side, South Carolina just got taken down by UConn, who I thought wasn't that great. So now USC in the NCAA brackets they put out ahead of time, USC is now a number 1 seed over South Carolina. So South Carolina's fallen on number 1 seed. UConn's in the conversation of the 1 seed instead of LSU. I saw Texas, UCLA, Maryland, and Baylor live. I think UCLA is underrated. I think Texas might be one of those not a Cinderella team, but a team that can make a deep run.
Okay.
Iowa, without Caitlin Clark, is beating everybody in the Big Ten right now. I don't know on the women's side is going to win. The men's side is even worse because I think you have Duke. I think you have Houston. And in my head, I think that's the Big East tournament before I make that decree of how good they are.
Yeah.
But, like, what do you do right now if you're trying to even consider doing a bracket? Like, what do you do on Selection Sunday and Selection Monday for the women when those brackets come out?
I think you just gotta. Well, I don't know. I think before you even get to Selection Sunday, I just think you gotta enjoy the conference tournaments because I think this might be one of those years where all the conference tournaments are actually pretty decent once you get past the muck of the road of the play of the conferences. So I think the Big East winner be well deserving. SEC winner be well deserving. Who's going to challenge Duke in the ACC tournament? It's going to be something to watch. But yeah, I think the field's wide open. Big Ten field's wide open. But I think 1 to 10 actually in both the men and women is really good, and that's going to make for good, compelling basketball come March.
Even ACC, like you watch a lot of ACC, and you have Duke 16-1 in conference, Louisville 15-2, tied with Clemson, and then you have a little bit of a drop off. SMU, Wake Forest is kind of in there too.
Yeah,
Duke is the class of the conference. What is scary is North Carolina because they're actually coming on. Because I would say 2 weeks ago they weren't even in the tournament. They were not even in that last 4 out. Now they're in that first 4 out and they're surging. They've won 3 games in a row. They can make a run in the ACC tournament, maybe not win the tournament. And that's a team you don't want to see in March Madness at all.
I think they got one more game against Duke. I definitely want to take a look at that one in North Carolina. But I can see them winning that tournament. We've seen lesser things happen. And, once you win the tournament, that's an automatic bid. So,
North Carolina's the one scary team. The Big 12, and you look at Big 12 football and you're like, all these teams, like, where do they come from? You have 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 6 teams over 500 in the league. And then you have like TCU, Baylor, West Virginia, Utah, Kansas State, who's surging 7-10. But they're starting to beat everybody now. And then Cincinnati's kind of in that weird spot too. I feel like the ACC, the Big 12, and the Big East are still in the conversations of best conference. The SEC, who I shat on
it's pretty good.
season on the show,
pretty good.
is really good.
It's really
good. They're not that good. The SEC is better than all of them, and I apologize.
And we're not even talking about Kentucky. We're talking about Tennessee. We're talking about Alabama. We're talking about teams that you have no business being good in basketball. It's pretty good right now.
No, I'm going down to their standings because it's like every night on SEC Network, you have a team that like, oh, I've seen them play. Like, oh, damn, they're good too. Holy shit. So Auburn, obviously number one team in the country. Yep. Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Missouri, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Kentucky, all over 500 in conference play. And then you have Mississippi State and Vanderbilt, who all of a sudden Vanderbilt's good now that Jerry Stackhouse is the coach. Just saying. They're a game under 500 in conference. So you literally have a conference full of teams, and they're essentially, besides Auburn, they're all kind of beating up on each other right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very concerned about my bracket this year because I don't know what to do. Because I'm already in my head. And I told my dad, he's like, my dad's like, I'm going to use my head this year. I'm going to use my heart, use my head. And I'm like, good luck with that. Because this is not the year to use your head. Use your heart this year. This is the year to find a Cinderella somewhere.
I want to see where St. John's going to be placed in this whole bracket. I want to see if they're going to be a 2 or where does the committee going to respect them enough to put them?
So as of Tuesday, bracketology, they
can't be a 3. They cannot be a 3. That's being disrespectful.
They are in, we're finding the region first they're in, which will say a lot. They will be in the Midwest region, has a 4 seed.
Wow. The disrespect.
I think they would have to win the Big East tournament to move up and become, at least getting that 2 line.
Right.
Because that 2 line, you're not going to touch the 1 seed until the regional final. So you want to get the 2 so you don't see an Alabama, a Florida, a Duke, and Auburn until late in the tournament. If you can get that, you win. I think that's what makes the Big East tournament so important because if you get 2, you're home. Now it depends, obviously 2-15, that's pretty much a foregone conclusion, and you have the winner at 7-10. Your hope is an upset happens where you might get a 10 seed and you might get a 14 in the Sweet 16. If you say
I doubt it this year. I think this year is nothing but heavyweights.
I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Will St. John's be a Cinderella? Would you consider St. John's a Cinderella this year?
No, I think this year they're like a medium upstart juggernaut. They're in that line in between of. I think they're gonna run rough shots in the tournament, in the Big East tournament, and if they get lower than the 3rd seed, they're gonna feel disrespected. And I think they're definitely a Sweet 16 team. That might be their ceiling.
At least.
Yeah.
I see you coughing too. I've been fighting the cough for like 4 days. For and now like somebody at school's like, yeah, somebody got whooping cough. I'm like, who the hell? What? Is that a thing still? So measles and whooping cough. That's what we got in this country now.
That's why we gotta stay. We gotta stay with our water.
Look, a Trump presidency, we get whooping cough and measles. That's what we get. It's awesome. Bruce, Florida, obviously, because he's biased because he lives in Florida. He's a school. He's Florida. Florida doesn't scare me. I think that's the one team that in the SEC, I'm like, they're all right. Nothing great though. Compared to like Auburn, compared to I want to go back real quick because there was a team in the SEC that I watched them play the other day and I'm like, I hate them. Tennessee. I hate Tennessee. Okay. I can't say Tennessee is where Kentucky was for me last year and for years.
Wow. That fast. They took over the Kentucky spot.
They took over. Florida, they're good. I'm not saying they're not good, but I think compared to Kentucky, Auburn, Alabama, and if you go out of conference, Duke.
Right.
I don't see them like really making noise. I think Florida versus Houston. Houston wins that game 9 out of 10 times.
Fair.
Yep,
That's
and
fair.
here comes coughing like the Knicks championship hope. Listen, we still got that hope, bro. That hope is still a thing. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Maybe, hopefully,
The playoffs are what are we, like 8 weeks away, 7
8
weeks
weeks away. Yes, 8 weeks to the playoffs, and we'll
We'll
see
be
what
fine.
happens.
We'll be fine. This is Karate Kid. Icy, the rubbing of the hands. That's where we at right now. That's where we at. We'll be all right.
Speaking of, I watched Karate Kid 3. Underrated movie. I'm sorry. No one likes the third one. It's underrated. Yeah,
I like the third one better than 2. I like it better than 2.
See, 2, it was like happened with 2. I know they went back to Okinawa and stuff like that. But 3 was like gritty, and the dude Silver was like, I'm gonna get him back for you. I'm like, there was something about 3 that is redeeming for me. And I'm like, cool. He didn't get the girl. He didn't get the girl in 3, which pissed me off because she had a boyfriend. I'm like, then why is she part of the storyline? Which I realized, and this is my boredom. The girl who was in 3 was not 18 yet or something like that, so she couldn't have like anything like that in the movie. So it was just her friend because she's like 17 filming the movie with oh my god, what's his name? Ralph Macchio, who was like 26, which still is kind of weird to begin with. So I researched that. Bruce, I like the third one because I like the girl. Listen, I gotta do a movie show with Bruce. The girl was in another movie that was really good too, and a good 80s movie. I'll tell you, Bruce, off air. Great 80s movie. I don't know how we switch topics like that quick, but we'll go back. The other big news that happened today was Greg Popovich saying that he's not returning this season, and there was no mention of next season. And the sources are saying that next season, and going forward, is going to be kind of up in the air. We had this conversation before. Do you see him returning? Because I think him not returning this year was kind of a foregone conclusion, especially when we went down and not really playing for anything. So it makes sense. I really don't think it'll be good for him to come back. I think this will be the time to go, you know what? I'm done now.
I think, Pop being the warrior that he is, I think he doesn't want to go out this way. I think he gives him one. I think he's going to take the time, get better, get as best as he can. And if he's up to it, I think next year will be his last year. I think he will attempt to give it a go next year. Regardless, I think that's it. I think he's done after next season.
Yeah, I think I don't. Here's the other thing too. We don't know how severe the stroke was.
Right.
I think that's the key to this whole story, because we don't really know like how bad it was. Did he lose? I don't want to speculate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot that we don't know. So depending on how severe the stroke was, I think you got to take that into account. If it wasn't as bad as I'm assuming it is, because I hear stroke, I think bad. I'm not thinking minor stroke. I think a stroke is stroke. I don't care if it's minor or major.
Right.
If it was bad, maybe you shouldn't come back. Maybe you should take a front office job. Maybe you shouldn't be on the sidelines doing that. But Iki said he might want to give it one more shot with Wemby and the draft pick they get this year, and just see what happens. Give it one more year. But guys, I'm done. Let's go balls out and just see what happens.
Could you imagine if they get Cooper Flag? Because we kind of saw this happen with Duncan and Robinson. We kind of saw the same play out.
Duncan, Robinson, Orlando. I watched that magic moment again. How they get Penny and Shaq consecutive years. I'm like, all right. So it's possible. Speaking of Cooper Flag and the number 1 draft pick, why are the Nets working so hard? Because they almost beat OKC last night. They're like a game and a half out of the 10th spot in the play-in. Right. I thought the whole idea was then, hey, we're gonna get Cooper. Let's keep it chill. We'll trade Schroeder. We'll move some pieces. Hell, we'll trade Cam Johnson. You know what? We didn't trade Cam Johnson. Let's play hard. Hey, Killian Hayes, let's drop 20 points every game and become up the player that we thought you would be 4 years ago. Hey, dude from Princeton, Tozan, go out there and get doubles every night. What are we doing in Brooklyn right now? What's the point of all this?
I think the plan pivoted when they got D'Lo back. When they got D'Lo back, I think that's when the plan was like, hey, maybe we can make the play-in. Maybe we'll take our draft capital and all this free cap space we got next year and build that way. I think the Cooper Flag thing is definitely sailed. I think I'm not saying they'll make the play-in, but they're hovering around that, so that'll make them what a 7-8 in terms of lottery standings, possibly. I think the plan is to go about it before the KD and Kyrie era, where they just play it that way. And then they're very well coached too. I'll definitely give them that. They're a very well coached team.
It's boggling the mind of like you should be shitty, and you're working hard. Like
they're working too hard. They're working too hard to be. They're like, the hell with tanking. Let's just go. I blame D'Lo. I blame D'Lo for that.
Yeah, I do too. He came in like, I'm gonna prove a point, and they're like, no, don't prove the point. We don't want that. What I was thinking about today, and I put this in the rundown when I emailed to you, was I could sit and watch the NFL Combine for hours. I'm a nerd. Yeah. I'm a geek. I just watch guys run in circles back and forth all day. Why can't the NBA do this? I know the NBA have the draft combine and have like this. They show the scrimmages on TV, and why can't the NBA have their own combine? I know they have their combine, but it's like at 11 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. NFL Network is like, we're gonna make our shit prime time, or we're gonna make it a big event. Everybody's gonna be there. We're gonna make it like it's a major NFL event every single year. Can the NBA do something like this? Because I feel like you want to stay in the news cycle. NFL does such a good job with that. And the NBA is like, all right, well, we're going to put our D NBA TV team in Chicago at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday and just show scrimmages.
I think the NBA might not want to do it because they're probably a little intimidated that the players won't take it seriously. Because you got to remember, unlike, the NFL where there's multiple drafts, NBA is only 2 rounds. So they probably feel like, well, we know who are the 20 to 30 guys. Maybe they need to do it more so for like a global scale, like in terms of like overseas guys, like really put them to the ringer to see how good they really are. But I don't know. They have I'm not saying an identity crisis, but they just don't seem to know what they want to do in terms of like getting interest in guys coming to league or just the fans getting to know them. So I think there's a disconnect there.
Yeah, I feel like you, especially if this is only 2 rounds,
right.
I would think you would get the best, the best players to come out and go, I want to get in that first round, right? The first half of first round, your money's, I would say guaranteed. I think after the lottery it becomes a little more dicier, in the second round, you're kind of a body, but at least showcase the guys because we don't know who these guys are. Right. I watched the Christian Laettner documentary the other day, and like you knew Gray Hill, and you knew Christian Laettner, and you knew Fab Five. They were for 3 years, and you knew Larry Johnson, and you knew those guys because they were there for years. Everybody's coming up one and done. This would be an opportunity for us as the public to go, oh, that's so and so. I saw him at the combine. He did this, and his vertical is this one because you saw it. You're not really showcasing these guys. And then you push them out to the draft. And I'm like, oh, this guy's really good. Even though you're like, I've never seen this guy in my life.
And it seems like it seems like now when on draft night, it seems like now they're showing you YouTube highlights or highlights from the school or that made up a clip or something. It doesn't seem like it's a well produced, highlight reel anymore.
Yeah, or it's like, hey, here's a guy that was in the tournament and hit a couple shots in the first 4 game. You should know who he is. It's like, I'm not watching the first 4 games. Like, I don't know who this guy is. I'm sorry. But it could be done. I think they got to get creative on it. And make it a spectacle. Just do it. NFL does it so well. And even down to Rich Eisen running every year in a suit. Like, that's like, come on. Like, Get
must-see TV.
Get Mike Breen out there. Get Mike Breen out there. Have him run laps. Like, do something. Have him on suicides in a suit. I'm okay with that. The other news, I forgot this. I'm not sure if you heard this or not. So Master P is the president of basketball operations for the University of New Orleans basketball team.
Oh my! Didn't know there was a school named the University of New Orleans.
The announcement comes in the midst of an ongoing investigation at the school for possible NCAA violations related to sports gambling, which resulted in the suspension of 4 players in late January. Miller said he pledges to bring back the winning culture to New Orleans basketball, which is in 11th place in the Southland Conference with a 4-25 record.
Definitely four more wins than I expected. Okay,
I'm just gonna come out and say it, and I think I need to say it, and I'm gonna excuse my language. What the fuck is this? What is this?
Hey, they definitely think Master P has an eye for talent in the region, and if you would have told me Master P,
are they paying?
If you would have told me Master P was going to be the president of any basketball operation, I would have probably said overseas, not in New Orleans. Let alone, I didn't see that. I didn't see that coming.
Wait, I'm reading a quote from the statement from the news conference. This is what Master P said. As a kid growing up in New Orleans, I can honestly say that the basketball changed and saved my life. At that time, University of New Orleans was one of the best programs in the country. Who? What? I never even heard this. I'm gonna go back and check my records. But when the hell was the University of New Orleans a premier school in college basketball? Did I miss something?
When Master P got there and said it was a premier school, so there you go. I mean, I've never seen anything about that school.
Okay. So Bill Belichick brings on a former NFL GM to be the GM of the North Carolina Tar Heel football team. And New Orleans says, let's get Master P in here and see what he can do down here. I'm like, okay, that's what we're doing. Cool. Whatever. Our last topic, because I know we're both struggling with our coughs and our voices. What in the hell was that promo on Friday night with The Rock with Cody Rhodes' soul? I'm still trying to figure out what the idea. And listen, I got him out. What's up? I got The Rock out. What the hell was that about?
He wants the soul, man. I don't know if we're doing. I don't know who's turning heel here, but I'm all for it. I mean, we either have Homelander, Cody Rhodes, or Corporate Cena. I'm here for both of it.
I read that somewhere that Cena loses on Saturday at the Elimination Chamber and says, I'm going to sell myself to The Rock and get his title and get his 16th title reign.
See, that's where it's either him or Punk. Somebody's getting into that. I'm convinced that's a triple threat match at WrestleMania now. I just don't know if Cena wins the Chamber or Punk wins the Chamber, and the loser somehow is Punk going to cash in his favor, or they can do that too. Oh, there's a lot of. When The Rock gets involved, things go to shit, and I think there's real heat between The Rock. I think there's real heat between The Rock and Triple H because The Rock stay fucking up shit.
The Rock goes, all right, so Paul, I'm gonna come in tomorrow. Like, wait, what?
What?
The show's written. It doesn't matter. Right? The Rock's gonna come in tomorrow and save the show. Like, oh god, we gotta rate the show tonight.
And he sits on the board. He's the final boss. It's as much as it's a gimmick. It's legit real heat.
Wait, and what his intro? What was his intro? Like the first 20 seconds of his intro was like New Orleans Mardi Gras, and then it went to the fight. I'm like, what? I'm like, this whole appearance makes no sense to me. Everything he did on Friday was like, what are we doing? What is happening?
No idea.
Oh god. Okay.
But somebody's turning the heel. Someone's turning the heel. I just don't know
who. Bruce, rest in peace, AEW, his weekly AEW. Actually, I'm actually intrigued now with this whole Moxley thing because it's starting to make sense. It's starting kind of like the pieces are kind of forming a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I see what's happening.
I see what's happening with that, but I'm starting to have a dilemma. Back to WWE, that NXT card looks pretty enticing to go to sit at the theater at the Garden on the 11th. Like the hell with Raw. I don't care about Raw at the Garden, but that Tuesday night, that the TNA versus NXT, where you got Moose versus the other guy, and I'm more intrigued about that.
Yeah, I thought about it. I know, like, Pix 11 News was giving away tickets, and I'm like, man, it's a Tuesday night, and I'm like,
right,
I don't watch
NXT Tuesday night.
Yeah, and I don't watch NXT like that. Like, the TNA WWE thing doesn't really interest me because I know at the end, unless they have like an epiphany, WWE's gonna go over. I think that's gonna be ending.
I'll be sure.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Shawn Michaels are like, guys, come here and take our top title. Moose take the TNA Impact, which is not on TV here because Verizon got rid of it. I don't have access TV anymore. I don't see it.
Really?
Now shock me about that if they do it, but I don't see it happening.
Would you believe I have a TNA 24-hour channel on YouTube TV?
Yes, and on Pluto and on Samsung TV Plus. But here's the thing: they show the same shit over and over and over. Saturdays are fun because Saturdays you show like the first couple of years of TNA.
Yeah,
like the NWA TNA. I watched those on Saturdays. So I'm like, just to see how bad it was, and like tighten it up with like the Jeff Jarrett podcast. So he's talking about this show. I'll go back and watch this show. I'm like, oh, the midget had a gun. That was the show with the midget with the gun. I'm like, got it, cool. I'm like, so, but I get the partnership.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's gonna help TNA very much. They're playing UBS in Long Island. I'm like, what are y'all doing?
Really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, they're playing the Galen Center, the USC's basketball arena, and they're playing UBS. I'm like, you're not going to come close to selling UBS. Why would you do that?
Right. There's a reason NXT's at the theater and not the Garden per se.
Exactly. Why not go to Westchester Civic Center? Go there.
Right.
That's more your speed. Don't try to go to a big arena because you're going to get embarrassed.
Yep, I agree.
And it's going to look really, really bad. Bruce believes that with Linda McMahon as secretary, I think WWE history should be taught in schools. I'm just saying.
You know what? I would say I would give WWE this credit. They're first to a lot of things. They were first to pay-per-views. They were first to weekly, like, Monday Night Raw, that kind of stuff. They were first to networking in terms of partnership, selling your intellectual property and leasing it out. Because I'm hearing Peacock's deal is done in March, so everything's going to go to Netflix after that. It should be taught. When it comes to entrepreneurial success, I think Vince and Linda definitely should have a seat at the table, per se, when it comes to American culture. Them and billionaire Ted too. He should definitely have a seat at that table. Kudos to Linda, though. Kudos to Linda. She will always have a home when it comes to Trump administration. She always seems to find herself in a good spot.
I guess. I guess. I hate this country. I don't know why. This country really sucks. I'm sorry. I'm done here. Per usual, Bruce is on Wednesday nights. I just said that on the air. I think I'm getting arrested tomorrow. Every Wednesday night, Armchair Ring here on the One Podcast Network. We'll be back next Thursday at 8 p.m. as well here. if I'm not locked up in Guantanamo for saying what I just said. For Jason, I'm Kahlil. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next Thursday. Peace.
Peace.
This has been The Box Out with Kahlil Thomas and Jason Kortner. Subscribe now for the best tri-state area basketball talk.